And what kind of player am I? Am I an offensive man or a defensive man? That's right, I'm neither. I play my opponent. If he likes to attack, I force him to defend himself. If he's a cautious man, I draw him into dangerous water. See, you get so frustrated playing defensive positions, you make stupid moves you never make if you were thinking. When you come here, boy, check that shit at the door.
I'm at the top of my game, cut the check. Somebody better king me, I'm the best. Let's play a game of checkers. Better yet, the game don't love nobody. Let's play chess.
I keep forgetting when I'm in love anymore. I keep forgetting.
Okay, so 7th episode of Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking libertarianism, the current political landscape, and my guest today is Larry Sharp. As you all know, I am Julian Ace, ACR, the Blue Collar Intellectual, and let's have a good night. Solutions over politics, as usual. So, how are you doing today, sir? Go ahead and introduce yourself to anybody.
I'm doing great. I am Larry Sharp, and what you will notice immediately, if you're watching, if you're listening, I feel bad if you're only listening, I am a really handsome man, and that is how I've gotten every place in life, only through good looks, nothing through intellect, which is why I'm so happy to be on the Blue Collar Intellectual, so hopefully I can be schooled.
I appreciate that. Let's start with where we align. We are both Marines, which I think is awesome. That is a character point for both of us because the Army-Navy game is coming up, and go Navy, beat Army, because Marines are better than all the rest of you. Now,
absolutely true. Yeah, demonstrably true. Correct. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. But I may be an old school Marine for you. I mean, I joined the Marine Corps in 1985.
I was in 2006 to 2011, and to me, yes, you would be an old school Marine, but I think we all leave the service wondering why the hell it is not the same as it was when we first enlisted, because that is certainly what I was thinking when I left.
Absolutely. It's funny that, some of the most effective and powerful and forward and effective libertarian activists that we get, many of them are veterans, and a high percentage of those are Marines. The most elite of the services are the Marine Corps, and most of us join the Marine Corps. Not all of us, but most do, because they want to defend the country. They care about things like liberty and freedom, and they care about America and all these things. Many people join the service too, but particularly the Marine Corps. And so now we're trying to do this, and then we realize that we didn't really do that when we were in. That isn't really what we did. And then we get out and we're like, what happened? And if you find the liberty movement, and not enough Marines do, but if you find it, you go, oh, this is kind of what I was talking about, the idea of caring about America, the Constitution, liberty, freedom, all these things that, I thought I was swearing to an oath to defend. I can actually defend and advocate for being part of the liberty movement. I always hope the Libertarian Party, but in reality, the Libertarian Party is only one small part of the liberty movement. I happen to be a member of the party, and I hope everyone listening and watching will be a member of the Libertarian Party, but you don't have to. But you should be a member of the movement itself.
Yeah. I am right now, I am registered Republican. I never identify as Republican because I despise the idea of identifying by the party that you happen to be affiliated with and not by the principles that you hold, because I think that ends up sending people down a wrong path to where we argue parties
Very often.
and rather than arguing principles or ideas and actually getting anywhere. It ends up resulting in political thuggery. But
all the time. And also it winds up making it very easy to simply create a line of I'm not the other, right? So it makes it so that we unite not on what we're looking for, what we agree upon, but we unite based upon who we hate.
Yeah.
So I hate those evil Republicans. They're all racist and fascist. Oh, you hate them? So you must be a Democrat. Or I hate all these socialists, these social justice warriors. Oh, you hate them? Well, then you must be a Republican. That's the wrong reason to be a Republican or a Democrat or anything else, right? It's the wrong reason. You should have some principles you agree with, and then you should unite over what you agree with, not over who you hate.
I think the idea of uniting over who we hate rather than who we agree with is exactly what brought us to where we are right now. Where, to be completely honest, everyone in 2008 united over Obama because they hated Bush. And I'm not going to lie and say Obama was not a spectacular speaker. That guy, he could sell anything to anybody.
But not after 2008 he couldn't.
No.
Not after that he couldn't.
But
2008 he could. 2012, then we kind of saw what the product actually was. Right?
Yeah,
then we saw what the product
it was drastically different. And that's what led to the rise of like the Tea Party and this rising liberty movement. And nobody in the Tea Party got what they thought they were getting.
Yep.
Nobody.
Absolutely.
And I remember I was active duty during the Tea Party movement. I was like, all right, this is going to be some progress. We can actually get back to the principles that we're founded on. And it won't just be what I see as the Libertarian Party leading the way, because the Constitutional Party is less than irrelevant. And the Green Party is somewhere between holding hands and skipping under rainbows and snorting pixie dust. I don't know what's going on over there.
No, the reality of when it comes to third parties, Libertarian Party is still obviously a small party. At best, we're 2% of the population. That's about what we average when it comes to voter turnout, 2-3%. We sometimes do well and get 12%, 30%. Does happen, but usually we hover around 2-3% because that's about what we are right now. But with that in mind, we're still the biggest of all the others, right? Of all the small parties, Libertarian Party is by far the biggest of them, the most effective of them, and the only one that's got 50 state ballot access twice in a row. The others didn't. Green didn't have it last time, don't have it this time. None of the others had it, right? Only the Libertarian Party can do that. So if you're looking for a third-party horse, we're the best game in town.
Yeah. Green Party got absolutely shafted this time.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't think – I mean, I pay attention to politics. I've been paying attention to politics since I was 12 years old. I have never seen a party candidate that literally got justified to be taken off the ballot in court solely on the idea that they would take votes away from the candidate that was desired to be on the ballot, which is exactly what actually happened. If I remember, I think it was Iowa or Wisconsin. It actually happened this time where Democrats argued to take the Green Party candidate off the ballot because it would strip votes away from Biden. I've never seen that before. I thought it was absolutely asinine.
But it's always been that way. The issue is it wasn't so open.
It's not.
Now it's open, right? And this is the biggest thing. People always say things like, well, you third parties, you guys are a waste of time. You can't vote. You got to have better candidates. All these things are true, right? All of these things are true. However, the biggest problem isn't that. The biggest problem is ballot access.
Yeah.
Right. You can't vote for us if we can't get on the ballot. Right.
Exactly.
No matter how good I might be or how bad I might be. But here's the biggest issue. It's sad. And we need to have an executive who will say this, a mayor, a governor, a president, who will say this to the judges. Stop that. There is no harm. Right. Let's say that I'm a terrible candidate for whatever, mayor or governor or something, and I want to get in the ballot. And by mistake, I get on. So if I'm a terrible candidate, no one's going to vote for me, right? So what? I just provided an option for people who don't like the other two, which is what America's supposed to be about. What's the harm? But if I am the magical candidate that's going to fix everything, then everyone will vote for me, in which case everyone got what they wanted. So either way, it's a win. There's no harm in allowing an actual party to be on the ballot. And this is what we haven't spoken about. If we just do this, if you're a Democrat or Republican right now listening or watching, and you're saying, well, my party isn't that bad. Yes, it is. Your party's bad. Because here's what I guarantee you. Across every single year, both Democrats and Republicans go out of their way and sue to get candidates removed from the ballot. And not just their party, their own candidates
Yeah.
of the opposition party. They use the law to force people off the ballot to purposely limit your choice. And they do it
Yeah.
every single year, and both parties do it.
This is one of the things I keep saying. I cannot have a discussion or debate with people who do not see party dynamics. If you cannot look at the party and see that there are different dynamics within the party and that everyone within the party are not lockstep like lemmings, there's no point in having a conversation with you, because you're walking around with your eyes wide shut. And it's obvious that Donald Trump, like this is why I say it's obvious Donald Trump was a wrecking ball, and that not by far not everybody in the party agreed with him. There were 18 other people on stage that virulently disagreed with him, many of which are the exact same people who are either silent or have castigated him his entire presidency. And it's obvious no one on the left agreed with him. As a matter of fact, the people who supported him this entire time have just stuck the knife in his back and walked away. So there's obvious, and I say this about the left too, it's obvious that Bernie Sanders didn't have the support of his party.
There's a difference here, though, right? There's a difference between the average Republican who's out there voter and the establishment class of the Republican Party. The average Republican voter, most still support Trump. The average. If you just grab a Republican out there, you grab 10 Republicans, people who self-identify as Republican, right? At least 6 will say, I support Trump. At least. Maybe 7 or 8. But for sure, 6 will say they support Trump, without question. But if you look at the senior leadership, many of them never supported Trump in the first place. In their view, he was a tool for them to get what they wanted. And when the tool doesn't work anymore, they throw it away.
Exactly. And that's the one thing where I think libertarians, idealistically, when I've seen libertarians, like there are a couple libertarian groups up here, good guys. I go shooting with them. I love them. They're all great guys. Lots of ex-military like myself and you, and these guys were they're a little bit higher up that badass chain. A lot of special operations guys. Who just have seen the inside of the government and didn't like what they saw when they looked behind the curtain. And what I say to people is, what you saw when the entirety of DC came out against a single guy was a look behind the curtain, as they all started to work together, and you see overtly them working together. And that was my only fear, because I agreed with Joe Jorgensen on probably 90% of things. The 10% I disagreed with her on were big things. And that was the only reason I couldn't vote for her, is I was like, I got a known quantity and a guy that I see is willing to New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, okay.
New Hampshire. Gotcha. Yeah. Very, very live free or die up here. To be honest, I think if there were a place where a libertarian candidate could win, I think it would probably be New Hampshire. Because I've looked at how we vote election after election cycle after election cycle, and it's always we choose a Democrat when it's a social issue that runs the top of the ballot ticket, which libertarians are great at, because it's a pretty much, I don't give a shit what your issue is, just leave me the hell alone and do what you want to do, and I'm not going to mess with you, and you don't need to mess with me. And then when it's a law enforcement, national security, or economic issue, it goes Republican. When that's the issue. When there's a war on the ticket in New Hampshire, at the beginning of the war, New Hampshire votes for the war because we're very live free or die hard. Once you're in the war, it's let's get the hell out of this. Why are we not winning the war at this point? Which brings me to we don't fight wars to win. You're talking about a lot of party stuff, which I agree. It's true. But if you want to get someone to change their party, you got to realize it's like parties right now are like tribes, right? I'm just part of the tribe, right? I'm a New York Yankee fan. I was born in Manhattan, raised in the Bronx, a little kid. I'm a Yankee fan. I don't care if the Yankees suck any given year. I'm still a Yankee fan.
And when they're awesome, I'm still a Yankee fan. And when they change managers, I'm still a Yankee fan. It doesn't matter. That what they do doesn't matter. I'm still a Yankee fan. And I think the way that many people look at their party now is, I'm still a Republican or I'm still a Democrat. It doesn't matter who the guy at the top is. Okay, it's Trump. I'm a Republican. Okay, it's whatever. Who was the guy? Bush? Okay, I'm a Republican, right? Oh, it's Romney? Okay, I'm a Republican, right? They're not going to go to the other team. They're going to stay on their team unless they see some real reason to change, which is what I bring up constantly. I don't talk about libertarianism. Someone asked me once, I forgot at some convention I was at. They said, Larry, what's more important, talking about the Libertarian Party or talking about libertarianism and the principles? And I said, neither. Nobody cares. The actual thing you want to talk about is libertarian answers to people's problems, right?
Exactly.
There
Solutions.
are fantasies that we in the Liberty Movement use all the time. There's stories we've told ourselves for years that don't exist. They say, people want a choice. No, they don't. People want solutions for their problems, and they would take you as king of America if you could actually solve their problems. They're fine. We got a good king. We're in. That's what Americans want. They don't want choice. They want solutions for their problems. And we keep voting for people that we believe they're the ones who are going to solve it or fix it, and they don't. So that's step one. Second,
we want the illusion of choice.
Yes, correct. The second thing libertarians say is, well, people want freedom. No, they don't. It's clear that they don't. Some people want freedom, and some people don't want to be free. It's not a universal thing. But here's the harsh part. If you actually live in a free society, then people can choose to not be free. You can choose to surrender your rights as you want it to whomever you want to, when you want to do so. You can join the Amish. You can, go into a drug rehab center. You can join the Marine Corps. You can survive. You can surrender your rights voluntarily whenever you want to in a free society. But in a non-free society, you can't be free. You don't get both in a non-free society. You actually get both in a free society.
Yeah, I go to I've seen this start to come up recently, and I keep saying that there is no form of freedom or power to the people in which you are required to gain that power to the people. You are required to give up said power to the state so that the state can therefore benevolently redistribute that power back into the people. It has never once in history worked that way. And the idea that people think, which is what I see all forms of collectivism or statism or any of that, where you put a group of people above yourself and expect them to solve all your issues rather than recognizing that these people are supposed to serve you and you tell them what to do. I don't see any way that any of that changes. And as you just said, you get freedom in a free society, and you can choose tyranny in a free society. Absolutely. But you cannot get both in a tyrannical society.
Correct.
You don't get to like Berlin Wall. You didn't get to leave.
That's exactly right. Yes. Look, the reality of it is we very often surrender our money or our rights to collectivism, but we do it voluntarily. Many of us are part of civic associations or church groups or things of that sort. We give our money, and those people give it to whomever they think is correct to give the money to. And we're good. We volunteer. We say, hey, I trust these people. I give them my money. And if I don't like it, I stop giving them my money, right? That's voluntary socialism is fine. Voluntary collectivism. It's wonderful. Up to you. And the problem is most people think, oh, you're libertarian, therefore you hate anything social. Therefore you hate anything collective. No, I hate coercion. I hate you forcing me to do so. But I'm happy to let me give my money to whom I want to, when I want to, how I want to, even if that's throwing my money away. Even if you think I'm crazy to give my money to that person. So it's my money. Let me do that. And I'll be dumb. And I'll learn my lesson, or I won't. But either way, maybe my lesson I learned, you can look at me and go, ooh, that was a bad idea. Let's not do that. Either way, it's a win. But my larger point, though, is the only way that we can show that is by comparison. And what most libertarians you'll hear when they're the rabid libertarians that jump up and down a lot, which is fine, I don't mind it. But when they do it, they're often saying, get rid of this, abolish that, get rid of this. I hear that often. What does the average American think? They think, get rid of that. Oh my God, there'll be nothing. My kids will die. I'll die in the streets. They can't imagine. So I don't say that. What I say is understand what government always is. It's always two things. It's a monopoly and it's a jobs program. It's always those two things in whatever it is, a monopoly and a jobs program. So why don't we, instead of trying to destroy the monopoly, create competition for the monopoly, create another option. So always allow a private option to everything that is government. And if I'm right and my private options are better, people will voluntarily leave the government option and pick the private option. And if I'm wrong and my private options suck, people will stay with the government. So that's a longer term solution, but it's the only one where people will actually say, you know what, I thought that was a better way and it's not. You know, that's a better way. Let me go that way. And that might take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to happen. But when it happens, it's permanent. People get it. They don't just go, oh, they got rid of the government, so I guess I'll go to, I'll go to Larry's thing. I want them to go to Larry's thing because Larry's thing is better and they chose to do so. And then one or two things happens. The government option either gets better and more efficient and effective, or it goes away. Both are the right answer.
My thing is there has to be an actual choice. And the one thing that we always see with government is government creates a monopoly wherever it goes, like you just said. So when it, like for instance, public schools, we still have private schools, but right now the public schools and the teachers unions are trying to snuff out charter schools, which are a very, very cheap form of private schools that you can get in solely based on merit, which in America, we were supposed to love merit. You succeed based on merit. So
but it's
it
not
would be
fair.
logical.
Why do you mean? It's not fair. Why do you hate children? Oh.
Why can't everybody go to these charter schools? Why can't everyone go to these private schools? And the fact is, the same people who are electing for you to go to public schools are the same people that don't want you in private schools with their kids. Every single elected representative sends their kids to a private school and not a cheap private school.
That's correct.
And if I remember correctly, I'm up in New Hampshire and we have Phillips Exeter and Phillips Andover, both great institutions, and plenty of elected representatives have sent their kids there. They're at the top of the list for great private schools in the country. Average person can't go there. I can tell you right now, it costs as much as your salary, most likely, for most people.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yes. No, my point being here, I'm not even happy. I mean, I accept begrudgingly charter schools as nothing else, but I'm not a fan of charter schools in general. I want a separate, totally separate option, right? I want to support. I want to think about this with the COVID, the response to COVID. I don't know how bad it is in New Hampshire, but they're shutting us down, destroying our economy here in New York. Our economy is being devastated in New York, and we're never going to be able to recover again to the level that we were. The glory days of New York City literally are over. This is the death knell. We will now begin to go under 7 million, which for New York State is for New York City is a big deal. We're going to go under 7 million people in New York City. New York State's going to go under 15 million, which again, for New York State is a huge deal. That's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to happen. We're going to start emptying out our state. We're already doing it, and we're not going to come back. Now, what I mean by this is, if we had done what I was
going to
talking
happen
about,
to all the surrounding states, everybody that lives in all the surrounding states around New York that commute into New York City, that's also not happening.
Absolutely, yes. All that's going to be affected, right? So my point is, if we had done what I talked about, if we had done what we talked about in 2018, 2017, and supported homeschooling and supported private schooling, now when COVID hits and everyone's shutting the schools down, there'd be institutional knowledge in the communities to deal with this, right? Right now, in most communities look to government to support them because government has been the monopoly supporting them for so many decades. The institutional community knowledge isn't there anymore to support themselves. It isn't there. These are new muscles they have to kind of re-energize and figure out all over again. Well, if we had done this 3 years ago, those muscles would now be back in shape, and the communities would know how to educate their kids. There'd be people who were, what would have happened? Here's what would have happened. Instead of us not knowing what to do, you'd be looking at communities we know, hey, doesn't Jane and Bob, don't they homeschool their kid? Oh, they do? Maybe they can help homeschool my kid, or I would homeschool my kid, and now they can ask and talk, and maybe throw the kids over at Jane and Bob and throw them a couple bucks every month or every week. Now they're making money, and the kids get educated. Done deal. Problem solved. Yeah. But we didn't do that. We instead said one answer, monopoly. That's it, and now we all pay.
Yep, my wife is she works at daycare. She was supposed to be a kindergarten teacher this year. She's been doing the distance learning with all the older kids that can't go to school because up here, apparently Dr. Fauci, who apparently is the second coming of Christ, said that, completely infallible. Yep. He said that schools are safe. As a matter of fact, they're one of the safest places considering 90% of the school can't catch COVID and isn't at risk in any way, shape, or form. I think the number of kids that have died from COVID is under 1,000. Last time I checked, it is so minuscule, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same mentality that drives us. One baby dies in a car accident, so we have to revamp all car seats and create new regulations and change everything. And all of a sudden, your car seat has an expiration date, not because something happened to it, but because it just does.
Yes,
it just
absolutely.
does. And my kid, like my son, goes to school because we let him make the decision. I'm a big fan. Never did baby talk with my kid. He's my 9-year-old. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old as well. And I don't do baby talk. I hate that. I talk to him like he's a grown-ass man, and I expect him to respond to me like he's a grown-ass man. And I give him all the information that is required to make a decision, and he makes the right decision 98% of the time when he's not being impulsive and being a 9-year-old, which is completely fine.
I agree with you. I have a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Exactly. We are like, hey, read this. This is what your school wants to do if you actually want to sit in the classroom. And every couple of weeks when a COVID case pops up, not a lot of COVID cases, just one in like the whole damn school, they're going to shut it down and you're going to have to go home. And he was like, well, I'm going to be sitting in a plastic cubicle. I'm going to be playing basketball in a little circle on the recess playground or whatever, where I'm not allowed to socialize. I'm not allowed to talk to anybody. I can't see my friends or anything. Why would I go to school?
Right.
So he's at home, and because he's at home, or I should say he's at the daycare, but because he's at the daycare and he's allowed to work at his own pace, which has always been an issue, he's actually flying through the curriculum faster than they can put curriculum in front of him, to where now he's making PowerPoints about whatever interests him. He plays chess with me on a regular basis, and he's actually getting good enough that I might have to stop taking it easy on him. And he's running out of things to do, to the point where I'm going to have to start letting him read my books.
No, I like what you're saying, and the point that I always give is, if we have more school choice in general, each kid can get the education that's right for them. I actually don't want equal schooling. What I want is fair schooling. And what fair schooling is giving each kid what they need to move forward the way they want to. Some kids are really book smart. Some aren't. Some kids hate working with their hands. Some kids love it. Some kids love computers. Some kids hate them, right? Some kids have special needs to where they're only going to be able to go into certain fields because of their special needs. So what? Good for everybody. Find the education that works for your kid, that makes your kid happy. I say it all the time. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Those three things are in our divorce papers from the UK. And when we got those papers, we meant it. That's what we wanted, right? Now somehow everyone's got to be the same, and everyone's got to go to college, and everyone's got to get an education. No, everyone's supposed to be able to pursue happiness. That's what our government is supposed to facilitate. Nothing else. Can it facilitate this? We're good.
that is exactly where I think we're failing. We have gotten ourselves stuck in this idea, and I'm not going to get into Marxist theory because that's a very long discussion on how to organize society and stuff like that. It's a very tedious discussion. However, I will get into, there is I don't know if you've seen it on Peacock TV. They created a show out of the Brave New World.
Oh, okay.
They created a show out of it, which I'm a big fan of. Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead. I love shows that explore that collectivist mentality. And what I saw in Brave New World was really creepy because see a lot of it happening right now. And nobody was able to pursue what they desired to pursue. They pursued what they were told to pursue.
Yes.
And their healthcare system was pretty much pop a pill whenever you feel any sort of discomfort whatsoever. Whenever you are not happy, you pop a pill. It was eerie. It was really freaky. However, and I remember that reading the book itself. So no surprises.
One concept that we have to get rid of. If we get rid of this one concept, just one, everything else will get better. But it's so hard to get rid of. And that is, because something is right or true, it should be law.
Yes.
Once we get rid of that, we're okay. And the example I'll give you is a New York City example. If you remember New York City years ago with Bloomberg, our Republican governor, right? I mean, a Republican mayor, Bloomberg, he tried to ban 16-ounce sodas larger than 16 ounces in New York City.
Yes, I remember this.
His logic was, look, it's science. Now, to be forward with you and everyone else listening and watching, his science is accurate. There's no doubt. It's demonstrable. It's a proven fact that if over time, not an individual, if you give people smaller servings, they will drink less soda. That's true. That's an accurate statement. That is true. And should we as Americans, should we drink less soda? Yeah, we probably should. It's probably not good for you. You probably should drink less soda, right? This is all true. But the problem is he decided that because that was true, he's going to make it a law. Now, of course, it failed. So what did it become? It became a punchline. It became a joke. And now nobody wanted it. And now they all fought against it. But now go up, fast forward 15 years. What do you see in the stores now? Smaller cans of soda. Because it actually is healthy for people to have smaller cans, you'll drink less soda. So the market actually said, oh, it is real, and began to react on it on its own anyway. And people started saying, you know what, I would like that because it's true. If I get my kid a smaller soda, they'll drink less sweet drinks. That's probably good for my kid. So they get smaller ones. Now, what does that mean? That means that literally in New York City, more people didn't drink less soda because of him. Because it was a punchline, because no one took it seriously, because he tried to use force to make it happen. But what if he had just done this instead? What if he had said, hey, New York City, I have some great science I found that I believe in. It's awesome. Here it is. It's on the website. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a special website and a list for those restaurants that choose to sell only this. I'm going to put you on this cool marketing list to show that you care and that you want to do this. And just done that, nothing else, no force, no law. Here's what I know would have happened. Some restaurants would have used it as a marketing tool. They would have said, we care about you, so we're not going to give you big sodas. Come to our restaurant. We're the healthy restaurant. And people would have gone. How do I know that? Veganism. Veganism's not a law. There's no rule on veganism. You don't have to be a vegan. You go back 20 years, hard to find a vegan restaurant in New York City. Now,
it's really weird. Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yes.
All it took was this. All it took to make that come to fruition was this diet craze. A diet craze used to pop up like every 5 to 10 years. We have a new diet craze every 6 months. It's insane. Intermittent fasting, keto, paleo, Atkins. There's superfoods. Yeah, not even superfoods. They're regular shit you eat. I eat the shit on a regular basis. I like. year, I'm pretty sure I got COVID before we knew that it was here, because it knocked my whole damn family out. And I never get sick. I'm that dude that I can kiss my wife and all 3 kids when they're deathly ill and vomiting and not have an issue. I'll be completely healthy for days on end. But then again, I also drink brown liquor and hot toddies, and that's a proven fact.
I like
Hot
that.
toddies work. Yeah,
I like that. It's good. I like that.
I like brown liquor. It's a proven fact. It works. But
So you're telling me I should drink more?
yeah.
Okay.
I would have been the bourbon intellectual, but I have to run for office and I have to convince people that I'm not an alcoholic. It's not working because every time I do a podcast, I have a beer or a glass of scotch or bourbon in my hand. So, but then again, I very rarely care about what anybody thinks.
Well,
So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But,
But there's something else, right? If we actually want to help grow our economy, help grow the happiness in our life, we want to allow people to partake in whatever drug of choice they want to take, whether that's brown alcohol, whether that's cannabis, whether that's caffeine, whatever that might be, right? That your drug of choice. I mean, it's fine. You might say, but Larry, if we do that, then people will be, they'll be doing heroin, they'll be doing meth, they'll be doing crack. And my argument with that is, and most people disagree with me, but it's an argument that I think is a real one, and that is meth and crack are specifically created because of the government's war on drugs. If you didn't have a government war on drugs to where you couldn't get safe drugs, to where you couldn't get safe opioids, to where cocaine is so damn expensive, right? People wouldn't have to use meth. They wouldn't have to use crack. In fact, you wouldn't have 80% of our addicts because they probably wouldn't be in an opioid. They'd be in a cannabis product, which doesn't gateway you to an opioid product. The reverse is true, right? So if you allow people to have better drugs, and how do I know this? Because I live in Manhattan, and a lot of my time here has been coaching and training people in tech, law, and finance. And the image of people in finance doing drugs is based on something real. That's all I'm going to tell you. Yeah. And it used to be cocaine was the big deal. Now, believe it or not, or at least since I haven't worked in that field in about 6 or 8 months, because my governor, His Majesty King Andrew Cuomo II, oh hail the king, he deemed me non-essential. So I wasn't able to go work. But prior to that, Adderall was a thing. They would take Adderall, crush it up, and snort it like cocaine. Because Adderall is cheaper and Adderall is safer. So they would take the cheaper, safer drug.
This is one of those things where I say, as much as people want to rag on cannabis, and I think the Republicans missed an opportunity with this, Donald Trump is one of those people that, like any other businessman, if you provide a solution and you can prove that it works, he will listen. And it's been proven by people within his cabinet that provided unorthodox solutions. Prison reform didn't just pop up because this guy liked the idea that because that was the Republican talking point. Republicans never support prison reform. As a matter of fact, there were quite a few that were completely against it because they were like, "Oh my God, there's going to be murders everywhere." And it turns out what he did was actually pretty freaking practical. Let out non-violent offenders. Non-violent offenders, not even housed with violent offenders. So it's a completely different scenario. You're let these people out. Now, granted, if you let a whole bunch of convicts out with criminal records, when we don't have the economy that allows them to actually jump back into the economy and be productive, you're going to get a fast recidivism rate, and they'll be right back to where they were. And which is where I say the crime rate in every area that tried to duplicate the same thing, and that was solely over a talking point. That was political Candyland, not even chess or checkers. It was Candyland. Well, they did police criminal justice reform. We're going to do our own. Let everybody out. Yep. And while you simultaneously shut down every business in the state, You destroy the economy. Everyone's out of work. Well, guess what? There's nowhere for any of those people to go, and no real estate tenant is taking on new, or no real estate developer or landlord is taking on new tenants in the middle of a pandemic where they're not getting paid by the current tenants.
And especially felons.
Yeah.
And especially felons.
Yeah, it's hard as hell to. Now, I've never been a felon. I have friends that are felons, and I have friends that are cops. I know from their experiences, it's damn near impossible to find somewhere to rent if you got a criminal record.
It's very hard. You lie on the forms and you hope they don't do a background check.
Yeah,
that's what they do. You lie on the forms, and that society has encouraged us to lie on the forms. So we do. Yeah. Because what's the downside? We don't get the apartment. We weren't going to anyway. So you lie on the form and you hope you get the apartment. That's what you do. That's what I know. My mom was a felon. My mom was a victim of a drug war. I know 100%. And my father was in law enforcement. He was a cop in the subway, and then he was a corrections officer on Rikers Island here in New York City. So I know both sides of that. Absolutely, 100%. So the system is broken. It shouldn't exist. The idea that we can just lock people up and that'll solve the problem has never worked, but we just don't accept it as true. If you want people to not do a certain thing, create an environment where it doesn't make sense to do a certain thing. And that even goes for crime. I'll give you an example. Street crime is down tremendously. Why is street crime down so much? With the exception, of course, of the drug trade. Because people don't carry cash anymore. Where do they carry cash? They carry it in the drug trade because you can't use banks. So we've encouraged an environment. We can see a split right down the middle. Here's the non-drug trade. Hardly any street crime. Some, but hardly any. Here's drug trade. Tons of street crime. What's the difference? We stopped banking from being used in the other one. We've made it illegal. Therefore, there's violence. Don't make it illegal. There's no violence. And we just see it happen. But of course, what does happen, now you have more cybercrime because that's lucrative. So we've made a world to where cybercrime is far more lucrative than knocking someone over the head and taking their wallet. So more people go to cybercrime now. So all I'm saying is the environments are what make people, by percentage. Obviously, there are people who are bad who will do bad things. Clearly, that does exist. But that's actually a very small percentage of our population. The vast majority of the people who do bad things are affected by their environment. So if we change the environment, we'll have a whole lot less people doing bad things. Okay.
Now, I keep seeing this meme pop up, and I'm not going to share it on screen because that is extremely difficult to get it to actually load. But it shows libertarians, conservatives, and I'm not going to say liberal. I'm going to say progressives, and where they align on certain issues. Okay. And I want to say cannabis and drug legalization, progressives and libertarians align on those issues. True. When it comes to Second Amendment ownership and purchasing, all that stuff, libertarians and conservatives align on that issue. When it comes to free trade, you get I'm going to say you get conservatives align on that issue, and I'll even say a moderate progressive aligns on those issues.
Free trade?
Free trade.
I don't know. Free trade is much more a national issue, which really shifts depending upon who's in office and who is our enemy of the day.
Like right now it's China, so
right now it's China
sort of out the window. And when it was Russia, free trade is good because Russia really wasn't dabbling in money markets. They're more of an espionage. And then when you get, actually, you know what? I can't really. China's been our economic foe since the 80s, so I can't really think of anybody. But
not obviously, no, I don't think
not
so.
obvious.
No. China didn't really become our enemy until probably 2000. Really, the dot-com bubble is when when intellectual property became the key. That is really when China became our obvious enemy because they were taking our intellectual property.
I'm surprised they didn't become our economic enemy when all the jobs got shipped over there. And to be honest, I understand why everybody in DC was okay with it. So why would they be our enemy?
No, because there were other jobs available, right? That was the issue. If you look and I lived through the crash in '89, the crash in 2001, the crash in 2009, and this one. I saw all four of them. And the difference between the first two is that jobs were still available. So as we were losing jobs, there were other jobs for people to go to. If you remember around 2004 or 5 in that area, I mean, oh my God, everyone was getting hired. Like it was like, hi, how old are you? You're hired. I mean, it was really a market like that. But after 2009, things changed because after 2009 crash, there really was no recovery except for in the cities. Outside the cities, not much recovery at all. They're still suffering from 2009. That's when the opioid hit. That's when the crisis hit of all that. All this stuff began to happen in 2009. And that's when the white male in America started all of a sudden becoming, oh my God, what's happening? You're a white male over 40 and you're committing suicide and you're hooked on drugs. Well, that was never the case. Before that, the white male between 40 and 50 and maybe 40 and 60 was basically running things. That was the power person to be. All of a sudden now that became a problem.
Yeah, all those real estate agents, everyone that worked in real estate and banking markets, everyone that worked, I mean, even stocks. And you see, I watched out in California, my in-laws got a place out in the desert on the Colorado River, and I watched that entire town out there just die off as shops boarded up and everyone left. And it wasn't just that, it was as the economy started to drop, regulations don't stop.
Bingo.
Now, I don't know if people realize is that when the economy dips, it's not that like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna let things start to wind back up, maybe pull back some of the regulations, let everyone get their feet back under them before we slap them with something. No, they double down. They're like, all right,
they got to get money.
Well, yeah, that regulation didn't work, so let's pile 3 more on top of it without getting rid of the one that originally didn't work. So now you're complying with 3 or 4 regulations that didn't work, and you're still not getting the revenue.
The levels become even worse, right? So my state, New York State, will decide, oh, the rules for you to run your restaurant or hot dog cart or whatever's the thing you're running, right, are X. If you don't do this, then we're going to fine you. And you send state agents out to try to inspect, to do sting operations, to catch you and stuff and create crimes out of nowhere to make you pay thousands of dollars. Well, now the county looks at that and goes, whoa. You're coming to our county and robbing our people? No. We rob our people. And then they create their own rules so that they can get the money. Because the money right now is only going to the state, not going to the county. So the county creates its own rules. Within a city or town season goes, whoa, you're coming into our town and stealing from our people? You don't do that. We steal from our people. Then they create their own local rules. So now there's 3 levels of rules that you can never in any way, shape, or form be able to comply with. So you as a business owner have to decide, who do I want to rob me? I'm getting robbed. The question is, I like this state better, so I'll comply to the other rules, let the state rob me. Or I'll let the local guys rob me, I'll comply to the other rules. So you just basically choose who's going to rob you. That's what winds up happening because the state doesn't think, and you can see it right now in the COVID response packages they're coming up with, right? The relief packages. They're talking about money going to the local and state governments, direct payments to local and state governments. That's a terrible idea. What they should be doing is putting money into the communities so they can pay taxes to fund the government. But they're like, no, government matters. They can't function without government. They can function just fine without government.
I would be just great without government.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would be fantastic. Hand me the money. I can invest that money and I can create the tax revenue tenfold of what you would have gotten by giving it to the government.
Absolutely.
I got shit going on right now. I could make that money work 100-fold. And you'd be getting, based on the tax brackets that I hate tax brackets, but based on the tax brackets, you'll be getting friggin' tenfold of what you, if I make that money work, or friggin' 30 to 40, 100 fold, 200 fold, you're going to get at least 40% of that. I mean, I know you're going to come knocking on my door for it.
It's a commerce problem, right? Even if I just I get $1,200. All right, take my $1,200. If I just spend that in my local store, that's all I do. Well, guess who gets some of that money? Well, the owner gets some of that money, and so does some of the employees. Then they spend that money. I just multiplied that dollar. Right there, I doubled it, right? Because I spent it locally. I bought whatever I was going to buy, my groceries, or I paid my local bill, or got my car fixed, or whatever the thing is. I paid. They got a bunch. Then they went out and got their cars fixed, or they bought their lunch or their groceries, and they paid their cable bill or whatever they used the money for. And it just keeps going versus here's money to the government. That's in a black hole. I guess we'll have to give it again in 6 months and put it in another black hole and hope. Yeah. But that's where our mindset is. Government is more important than people in our current mindset. And most people in America are like, yeah, that makes sense. That's the shocking part.
I don't understand the idea of people that line up for a benevolent leader. I mean, when I tell people that the best in today's society, because racism is the worst thing ever, only chattel slavery in the United States. Mm-hmm. I'm a descendant of ADOS on my mom's side. I'm not going to bash the blight of chattel slavery. However, I am going to say George Washington was the greatest president we ever had. And I'm going to say it for one reason. He had the ability to become a king, and he didn't.
I'll go one step further on that.
He walked away.
I'll go one step further. Not only that, I'll add on top of that, because I agree with you. I'll go out on top of that. He decided to not run again.
Yeah.
He was the first person in the 1700s that he said, you know what? I'm going to allow a peaceful transfer of power, and it's not my kin, right? It's not my cousin or my brother or my son or my daughter. It's some guy that you say, and I'm going to walk away. That didn't happen in 1798. That didn't happen then, right? But it did here. It happened here.
It's like, not only do I not want the job, I only did it because you asked me to, and we needed it at the time. Now I'm going back to my farm to be left alone. That is that lone wolf warrior that we romanticize in every freaking old Western riding off into the sunset, or every single action movie where the guy, for example, because we're both Marines, shooter. He was the savior, and then he went back to his cabin in the woods so that he can shoot cans of beans. That is great.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why cans of beans, but
it's fine.
But, hey,
beans are delicious. I'm glad he likes beans. What's wrong with that? Beans are good.
Exactly.
So good.
But I mean, it explodes when you shoot it. So I mean that's
true. Yes, but so would soup. I mean, it would. But
soup does too.
Soup does too. So but yeah, that's good. Yeah. But no, I agree with you, and I think we've lost a lot of that. And again, it goes back to the idea: how do we fix this? Right? We can sit here and say, "Hey, this is right," and I agree with you. And we can sit here and agree with each other all day long. How do we get people who aren't thinking like us, who don't think the way we think, to think that way? It's not through coercion, it's not through violence, but it absolutely is by creating solutions, as you said, right? Solutionary, right? Creating solutions that people will go, oh, yeah, that actually makes sense. Again and again and again, creating solutions. You know, people say, we got to cut taxes. When I ran for governor, I didn't talk about cutting taxes. I talked about lowering spending. I talked about finding ways of raising money other than taxation, right? Voluntarily people giving money because they see the value in something, like leasing naming rights to a New York City bridge, right? A large organization would see value in having a Pepsi bridge or a Verizon bridge or an HBO bridge or a Disney bridge or whatever. They would see value in that, and they would happily drop $100 million a year to have that. They spend $3 or $4 or $5 billion every year on marketing in general. $100 million is a small chunk of that. And they would take that
in the country. Yeah.
100%. That gets mentioned literally hundreds of times every day on every news station when they do the traffic and weather. Right? Yeah. And every movie that goes by is a picture of Disney on top of a bridge, all the movies and TV shows. Totally worth it. Product placement for free? Of course they would.
That's $100 million in every single rap and country and rock song ever.
Absolutely. That's my whole point. So now what does that mean? That means now they can take that $100 million and put it to the MTA, put it towards the subway. You don't have to pay high fees. We don't have to pay taxes for the subway anymore. Does that make sense? The more we do, that's what I was talking about. If that begins to happen, now we can lower taxes.
Yeah.
Because someone does have to repair the bridge. The bridge has to be repaired. Okay. My point is, it doesn't have to be taxpayers.
Yeah.
That's it. And when I say that, this idea blew people away. And it doesn't seem crazy to me at all. I don't think that taxation is the only way to have a free society. I know most Americans believe that. I don't. Well, if I'm not going to believe that, I have to show you ways to get what you want without taxation. So I constantly create them. So people go, oh, you're right. Well, if people believe that, then they'll want to cut taxes.
I'm working on a tax plan right now, and I got interest from people, which is how people started contacting me. And the whole idea is flat tax that is inescapable. Flat tax.
I love it.
I mean, the fact is a very, very low flat tax and a 1% sales tax. Other than that, corporate tax would be the lowest in the modern world. It would basically bring every job that we've lost over the past 60 years back here to the United States. And I'd even go so far as a finite 5-year tax or lower tax rate for the companies relocating their manufacturing back to the U.S. and the economically distressed areas that we actually destroyed through our taxation and through our bad policy. So not permanent, but just to fix our policy. And I was like, people are like, well, you have to work off of revenue neutral about you know what we already have. I go, no, that's not how our last tax cuts were. I'm like, Donald Trump didn't do anything that anybody else was planning on doing. He actually did the exact opposite. And fiscally, it worked had we not fucking kept spending. If we had not kept spending, we took in more revenue than ever.
That's my point.
We just got to tell Congress to stop bribing us. Stop bribing us with our own money.
Yes, absolutely. Well, brother, I'm going to have to run.
No problem. I appreciate having you on. You are absolutely fantastic as usual. I will definitely be watching The Sharp Way as I normally.
The Sharp Way. Please enjoy. The Sharp Way.
That last episode was good. You went through so many topics so fast. I was genuinely very, very impressed. That was pretty good.
I appreciate that.
I really do hope you run again, and hopefully in 2022.
I will be announcing whether I will or won't be. I'll be announcing this summer. This summer is when I'll announce if I'm going to run or not. If I think I have the backing to where I can make the real impact that I want to make, I'll run. If I don't, then I probably won't. It really depends upon how much backing can I get coming up to and how many people are supporting me, what I see for the future. It's all those things. Because if I run, it's a year and a half out of my life that I won't be able to work. I'm going to be a full-time, campaigner. It's a lot of my family. I want to be able to make impact. That's what I want to do.
I really hope you do. I plan on running in this next election.
Nice.
Just because I'm sick of seeing what I see on a daily basis. I don't think people have real conversations. I don't think people get to solutions. And I think we hustle parties more than we hustle actual principles and what we aim to accomplish. And if you don't have solutions for the community, you shouldn't be representing them.
Absolutely. Yep.
So it was wonderful having you on. I hope we can have you back sometime. And I look forward to the next episode of The Sharp Way.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
You too. All right. that was a great conversation. I'm glad I had you guys on tonight to talk with Larry Sharp, host of the Sharp Way, and 2018 gubernatorial candidate for New York State. Sorry, you got my my 12-pack of Oktoberfest in the picture. Yeah. I hope you guys saw our entire mode for this conversation was to talk about solutions over politics. Let's stick to where we're going, ideals, principles, and what we can actually accomplish. The topics of the day, we got a little bit into taxation. We got a little bit into some other subjects, where we are in society, how we got here. We tried to move very fast for doing a quick episode because it's a Friday, and I know you guys got stuff to do. It's not like you're really going out anywhere because the whole country is shut down. However, it was nice having you here, and I want to bring in a little something while we're on our way out of here. My new culture logo. Check this out. But so here we go. We got Sonny Johnson going to have her show tomorrow, Saturday, 1 p.m. on Sirius XM channel 125. I will be assembling the thread so that you can share with everyone you know. As usual, Coach Felicia Killings will be doing the quoting, and we hope to have a wonderful episode as usual. You know, Sonny will always bring a fire conversation. Like I said in this episode, I have plans for running for office in 2021. I'll be dropping my campaign website along with the Blue Collar Intellectual website by the end of next week, or I should say this coming week. We need to ditch the political thuggery, and I'm willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with me to get to real solutions. The party atmosphere, obviously, as I think everyone has seen over this past year, doesn't mean a whole lot. We have Democrats that have actually proposed conservative solutions to things. We have Republicans that have gone full-blown liberal over this election. We have a lot of people who have taken up positions that you do not see regularly being taken up, and I think that we can fix this by simply choosing another mode of how to have these conversations. We can choose real blue-collar intellectuals, and I will quickly explain what a blue-collar intellectual is. It's me. It's you. It's the average person that researches, the average person that goes about their day worrying about how to put food on the table, how to pay bills, the average person that does the reading and does the intellectual work to continue to learn when they don't have to profit from it. The person that acquired the education but chose another path. The person that lives every day like everybody else and doesn't get special circumstances thrown in their way, thrown at them by the federal government or the powers that be, whether it be in the media or whether it be in Hollywood. We can choose a different path in this next election. I hope you choose people like Larry Sharp, myself, and many of the Black PAC candidates that will be re-running in this next election. I'm a conservative. I'll never lie about where I stand on principles. However, being a Republican doesn't mean what most people think it means. So I identify myself by my principles, and I'm a conservative first, and I'm a Republican second, as far as politics goes. So I aim to call it straight, and let's keep this going. So here you go. Have a good night, y'all.
And what kind of player am I? Am I an offensive man or a defensive man? That's right, I'm neither. I play my opponent. If he likes to attack, I force him to defend himself. He's a cautious man, I draw him into dangerous water. See, you get so frustrated playing defensive positions, you make stupid moves you never make if you were thinking. When you come here, boy, check that shit at the door,
I'm at the top of my game, cut the check. Somebody better king me, I'm the best. Let's play a game of checkers. Better yet, the game don't love nobody. Let's play chess.
I keep forget when I'm